This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
We were going to talk briefly about Michael Mann.
Okay, Michael Mann. And this one's a tough one as far as picking best and worst and all of that, because he has very few films, and what films he does have are pretty much all borderline all-time classics, if not all-time classics. I think my favorite film of Michael Mann's is still Thief, though. I think that's still his best one. Right out of the gate, he kind of... It's both kind of a proof of concept for like what his career would be, and it's just a great neo-noir. You know, you get the way he shoots the city, the way he gives you people dedicated to their craft to the point where they're obsessive compulsive, where they're frankly unhinged maybe a bit mentally because of what they do and the drive they have for their profession. In this case, a thief. But, you know, the detail-oriented side of his stuff, where it's like he talked with actual criminals and learned what they would use and how they talk and what they do. It's that kind of thing that has carried him throughout his career and, like, made his films feel super authentic when you're watching them. You feel like, yes, I'm actually watching a real criminal. I'm watching a person who knows what they're doing. And a lot of the drama and tension is built around just the intricate details of how they're going to pull this off, and then watching them do it. Because you know the stakes, because his films always sort of give you the stakes. Yeah, so Thief is, for me, his best one still. It just... James Caan is amazing in it. He is the protagonist that sort of defines all Michael Mann protagonists going forward for the most part. As this dedicated, single-minded, kind of crazy motherfucker who will not let anyone push him around or control him. As for Michael Mann's worst film, I'd have to say it's probably Black Hat. For me, at least, the one I enjoyed the least of his is Black Hat. And not because it's a terribly made film, but, like, in this case, a lot of the detail stuff Michael Mann kind of gets wrong. Like, a lot of the world of hacking and the terminology and what they actually do in it is kind of gobbledygook. It's kind of just made-up Hollywood computer stuff, which gets very tiring. And it's the fact that Chris Hemsworth is cast as this uber hacker who also happens to look like a supermodel, and also happens to be as good a special forces motherfucker as you could hope to be in one of these films. He's just taking on bad guys left and right like they're nothing. And it's just the unbelievability of that. It's probably the one film Michael Mann's done where it's just so off the fucking rails with the believability. It's just... I just could not get into it. I could not believe that Chris Hemsworth was this character. It was just ridiculous. It stands out because it's like it should be just an easy cakewalk, and it's ridiculous. It fails on that initial level to like hook me in a way that a movie like that should. Had they cast like Paul Giamatti or someone as the hacker, then maybe we're talking. But you know, Chris Hemsworth was, you know, who's just one of the most beautiful people on the planet. In that role, it just doesn't work. As for underrated, and here's, you know, probably the one time Michael Mann really stepped out of his sort of wheelhouse. That's The Keep, his second film. It's a film that's plagued with a lot of production problems. It's a wonky, sometimes trashy, weirdo fucking horror movie with like Nazi occultist stuff going on and a demon and encased in this ancient castle, and it's pretty crazy pants. Michael Mann gets to play around with some visuals here and there that are very impressive. And you know, it's still got the little Michael Mannisms in there, even though it's not one of his crime films. This is of course set in a world that's just totally unbelievable. So in that case, I can accept it more when silly stuff happens in that movie as opposed to like the unbelievability of the protagonist in Black Hat. So there you go.
We were talking off air how lately Mann's kind of been slacking, but all we can do is remember the good times. Is like when he really
big
was.
gaps. I know. Obviously, you know, he's got on in the age now, and he's probably not as active as he used to be. Which fair enough. You know,
he did a new
past his
Ferrari
peak.
movie. It's like that was
Yeah,
supposed
he
to be
did like that, and it's
Ferrari,
just like, okay,
but he
that's
did his
cool.
take.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's cool and all, but it's just like, man, it's just like, man, you gotta stick with the trailers. Get some interesting fucking, you know, scripts
like I
going
was
here,
out
because
by like I tapped out by the time Public Enemies came out. Like I'm like, why are you using this video quarter like footage? Like that doesn't.
I
And
didn't mind that. He was one of actually the first directors to start using high definition
I liked
cameras.
it
So
when
he was.
Soderbergh used it, but when he used it, it really did hurt my eyes to where I'm like, am I watching a student film or something? This looks awful. But
I like that. I think after Public
it's just the
Enemies, sort
story.
of kind of lost interest, because like he didn't make anything for about 6 years, and then he made Black Hat, and then sure he didn't make anything again until it was
Black
just
Hat was
Ford
another
versus
one where you're
Ferrari.
just like, see, I've seen so many hacker movies. This he did literally nothing with this premise, but I know there's
Yeah.
apparently a director's cut on it. But see, that's the other thing too, where I'm half and half when Ridley Scott does it. I don't. I like it when James Cameron does it.
Oh,
Also
what did
love.
Ridley Scott do? Body of Lies. That's actually not a bad movie.
Uh, it was just with Blade Runner, but like other
Oh
trailers
yeah.
he's had, like American Gangster, really don't make much difference. They're just extra scenes. But like, yeah, man, apparently had one for Black Hat, and I'm like, see, I don't know what you could add to that. Like the characters are just
Well,
so bland and non-existent.
yeah.
I need
I
to
think.
at least
Yeah.
like. I know we both like spy and assassin movies, and most people like to talk
Yeah.
on them now. I'm like, all I need is the guy to have some kind of cool like gimmick, and even if he doesn't make use of the gimmick, at least have a cool idea. Like it can be like Taken or Born Identity, or it can be like The Equalizer, where he like uses his army training to utilize for his spy stealth. But like I guess that's just it. Like I feel like he's gotten into that point where what he finds interesting is stuff that like we've known for like 20 years now. So I'm like, maybe if he had been like the first guy to discover it, it might be interesting. But like even then, like like I need something more. Like he used to really do cops and robbers so well, and then it's just kind of
And
gotten.
you know what the funniest thing is as well? Like, Hate's an amazing movie. I've got the director's cut there on Blu-ray. It's great. But he made like a made-for-TV film first called LA Takedown, and it was like proof
Absolutely,
of concept.
it was hard to watch
Terrible,
at
like,
first, but I've
yeah.
re-seen it, and I'm like, see, that is the blueprint. That is what became Heat. That is he
And
just
like
took a
that's fucking
lesser.
terrible. Like the bit where they're running down some neighborhood and they're like 10 feet from each other, shooting at each other, and it's just like, what the
Oh
fuck is going
no!
on?
Yeah, and I think that's just it. Like you look at it more closely after you've re-seen Heat dozens of times, and I have forced myself to rewatch that TV movie, and you're like, I
I've
see
never
why.
watched it in full. I've only ever seen bits of it. I was not ours. I thought it looked
It's
terrible.
really
To be
bad, like you say, but like when you watch it
yeah.
like more objectively, you're like, I see why he took out that thing that just would have been confusing, and then he added more gusto to like the three other members of the Vice Squad. So now we follow them a
Yeah.
little easier, and Because yeah, when you watch it, it's like a bad Miami Vice episode, and
Oh yeah.
but with even lesser, like, there's no cool mystery solving or anything. You're just like, who's betraying who again? Okay, and I think why we still admire Man is just his ability to stand on his own 2 feet. Like, I still want to see a director's cut of The Keep, even though we will never get that because he had such a bad time working on it with Paramount as X. He and I'm just,
That movie.
bummer.
I
It's
was
kind of
so
nightmare.
underwhelmed with that film.
Oh.
That was his first movie, wasn't it?
One of his first. He had done the
Yeah.
Jericho Mile, which is a good sports movie, and XCon competes as a sports runner. And then there are other movies where you watch, but
Heath.
you're best off seeing them only once, like the Muhammad Ali biopic. But
Oh yeah, I've seen bits
like,
of
it's
that so many
good,
times.
but I don't need to ever see it again. It is one of those that's so damn long, and you're like, okay, got it the first time. So I think he's a mixture of Ridley Scott, where he takes stuff that on paper sounds generic and makes it somehow a mixture of style and just cool, like, spectacle. And then there's other ones where you're like, you should have gone in and rewritten it just so it was more your style. But like Collateral, for instance, shouldn't have worked at all. You had Stuart Beatty, who had come up with like the story for like Pirates of the Caribbean, and it got
Yeah.
rewritten by Zorro guys. And same deal here. Like, apparently, even though he's the credited writer, like, there was a lot of plot holes. So it Frank Darabont of Shawshank Redemption and Elm Street Free fame, yeah, Green Mile, the Stephen King adapter, he punched up all the dialogue and scenarios, and and so when I look at that movie now, it holds together pretty well. It's just like that last 5 minutes on the subway where you're like, that doesn't happen in real life. There's no way you can get on to something like that. But for the most part,
I
it holds
think
together.
I think the ending's pretty plausible because there's bound to be a day where, like, at whatever
Subways are
time in
locked,
the
dude.
morning, where it's like gonna be half empty or whatever, or quiet. So it's
I'm sure
plausible.
it's,
It's not.
well, I'm talking about getting onto them. Like, the
But I
doors
mean,
are
like,
not just easy to unlock. Like,
well, the subway's probably still going. It's just fucking, you know,
what do I
um,
know?
you know,
Maybe I need to look
in
way
serving.
more.
I think you're just looking into it a bit too much, man.
Maybe. I don't know.
Now, the worst part about fucking Collateral is Jada Pinkett Smith because she's a shite actor.
Oh, really? I thought this
Yeah.
was she was okay here, I think, but I do feel like you could recast her or Jamie Foxx. They're good, but they're not at their best. And
I think Jamie Foxx is really good in it, to be fair.
I think he's good, but it's one of those roles like anyone could play it. Like, he
Oh,
didn't
really?
own. Yeah, like that. I felt like you could get anyone in that. Like, it could be Will Smith, it could be Denzel, it could be any other actor. And now Tom Cruise, like, I know he's a dipshit in real life, but same deal. Like, man is very much like Ridley and Scorsese and Spielberg, where he's able to get these unusual performances out of actors who otherwise, can't go there somehow. Like, it's kind of like
Yeah.
seeing Denzel be evil in Training Day, or Keanu Reeves as a bad cop turned anti-hero in Street Kings. You're like, where did that performance come from? I mean, Matt
I
Damon
actually
being a
really
bad
like.
apple in The Departed, just that same kind of, what the hell? That's awesome. Where did that performance come from? I mean, and
Yeah.
seeing actors grow is just so good. And man, fortunately, has a lot of that. Like, I mean, if anything, I mean, your boy Colin Farrell. I feel like he and Jamie Foxx matured a bit when they did the Miami Vice movie, but it wasn't a good adaptation of the show or
I
a
actually
good
like that film, but I think the biggest
the shaky
issue is
cam.
there's too much talking and not enough things happening.
Oh, there was that. Like, I was half and half on it when I first saw it. Then I resaw it again on when it premiered on cable, and then I saw the director's cut. And I think that's just it. There's too much, a lot clutter, and the action is just like, again, like that shaky cam. I just can't. get over it. But
Yeah, the shaky cam. There's a bit
I
of
do
shaky
recommend the
cam doesn't
TV
help.
show because that's kind of where he got his name. Like you see a lot of his themes
Yeah,
and
he
the
also worked on
Camarines is
Starsky and
great.
Hutch as well, didn't he? The original
Yeah,
TV show.
yep, he got to start. Yeah, being the spec script guy kind of guy, and I still need to see his HBO show Luck, which was about like
Which one?
horse gambling. Luck. That was a show that starred Justin
Oh
Hoffman.
yeah, I heard about that one as well. Actually,
That was one of those like it. You know, you team up with David Milch of NYPD Blue and Deadwood fame, and long story short,
yeah.
two great minds, but they don't get along at all. Like, so it got to where Milch is a perfectionist, Mann is a perfectionist. So Milch is like running his mouth as the producer on set, and Mann is like, "Well, I'm also a producer, so since this is also my set, you're banned from being on set while we're filming." And it was one of those. It was a good concept, and unfortunately, horses kept getting killed. You know, it had to keep being put down because of their injuries sustained during filming. So HBO didn't want to take the heat.
Oh,
Um,
for fuck's sake!
I know you're just like, good grief. And
What the fuck? Like,
so
I mean,
I
look,
still need to
um,
see. Have you seen any of
yeah,
his
yeah.
Tokyo Vice show that's on Max?
What's it called?
Tokyo Vice.
No, what's that about? He did that?
That's a new show he's helming. So
Uh,
heard great things that it's
um,
returned to form. So maybe that's the thing. Maybe he needs to keep collaborating more with people. But
wait, this is gonna be like Miami Vice, but in Tokyo, is it?
I guess, but I don't. That's the other thing too. Like when he does a movie, he is comfortable picking a different kind of style at times.
Yeah,
I think that is interesting to him. Like you would never like, and I think that's the beauty of it. If you haven't seen any of his cops and robbers movies, if you never cared for or saw Miami Vice, then you've at least seen the Muhammad Ali biopic. You've seen
see, the
Last of
thing
the
is,
Mohicans. You know, you've seen
yeah. Thing is, with Miami
he,
Vice, it was never really on telly. They had like fucking whatchamacallit, Knight Rider and shit in the 18, but I never really saw any Miami Vice. I've seen
that
bits
was
of
another one.
episodes.
I hated it growing up, but I've re-seen it in recent years, and
Which
I do
one?
like it. Oh, Miami Vice, the show, and it was one of those like once you get past the datedness, you can see why it was a big thing,
Yeah,
and when you look at his other shows that he's done, like Drug Wars, The Camarina Story, and Robbery Homicide Division, you can understand
never seen
why he
either of those.
that's the problem. They're so damn obscure due to all the music that he uses in his
Oh,
movies. But
really?
when
Oh,
you
for
see
fuck's
why he
sake.
collaborated numerous times with Dennis Farina, Tom Sizemore, Danny Trejo, John Leguizamo, Mario Van Peebles, and Pacino. I mean, like, look at The Insider. Like, it's not a
That one
must.
actually.
Think you'd like that one. It's a whistleblower type thriller.
Yeah,
Like,
I know what it's. I kind of know what the premise is, but I've just never got around to watching something to do with like a
it
cigarette
was one of
company or something.
those. It was one of those. I dug the acting. It's not one I love watching right away, but if you put it on when you're really in the mood for a slow burn, you really do appreciate like just the all star cast: Stephen Tobolowsky, Gina Gershon, Christopher Plummer, and it's
Yeah,
just stacked cast. And there's been so
James
many great true.
Jablowski's a fucking great actor as well.
Yeah, I know. And I always thought he was just going to be the deliberately annoying or wacky guy, but he's come a long way and played all kinds of people from sickos
Mm,
to amusing bosses to other straight face comedy. You know, it's just, and I think The Insider is interesting because it just was talking about the, tobacco and cigarette industries and the unethical nature of the health risk and everything. And I think it's interesting that man got to work, he got to work with Al Pacino once again, stretching himself in a good guy role, but then you see him working with, Russell Crowe and you're like, man, I had no idea that guy could do that kind of role, and that's a year before Gladiator
great
and you're
actor.
like, yeah, and you and I love our share of our tough guy actors, but it's just amazing when they go to such another like vulnerable kind of role. I mean, and so I think the outs The Insider is underrated in that I think had he not done that, I don't think we would have seen the Russell Crowe that we later saw in stuff like A Beautiful Mind, if that makes sense. Just those kind of real
LA
life biopics.
Confidential.
Oh, the LA Confidential, same deal. Yeah, I don't think had he done that, I don't think he would have gone to the next 5 stages of his career. Playing all these.
Yeah, that's probably I think that's
Sheriffs.
probably one of Guy Pearce's best movies, and I'm starting to think it's one of
Absolutely.
Russell Crowe's
Guy
best
Pearce.
movies as well.
Yeah, Guy Pearce was amazing, and Fun fact: I introduced my grandmother to Memento, but like
Oh, nice.
Guy Pearce is one of those like if you've seen Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, or The King's Speech, or even that Jack Irish show.
I've never actually never
like-
seen Priscilla, but I've heard of it.
I think you'd dig it, but like Guy is another guy who you're just like a pun, and you're like, where did that performance come from, and how is he so good?
Mm-hmm.
And just what would you like to see him do in the future, since he's got always like attached to like 7 different projects, and he's always able to make something that Michael Mann, he's always got something cooking, even if it's not 100% or doesn't sound great.
I wouldn't mind, like, I do like a bit of corporate espionage, so I wouldn't mind something like that. Like
A different kind of.
Yeah, like do the spy thriller shit, except avoid the hacking. I'm sick of the fucking hacking.
Yeah, especially when you're going to use it in a way where you're like, I'm sorry, how it works in real life. It doesn't.
Yeah, I feel like there are many great stories out there to be told, but like people just like Hollywood just seems to want to remake shit, and if they release something like Black Hat could have been good, but it's just like it took forever for something to happen, and then when something did happen, like you're expecting more, and then you just feel underwhelmed, and then the whole story at the end was a load of shite. Like
if there's one thing I must complain about him, and he does it in all his movies, it's his exposition, and sometimes like he's so in love with an actor playing a role so convincingly, and I'm like, dude, I've seen so many movies. It's just the same damn thing all over again. I need you to really.
Yeah,
you love the sound of your
fucking, like thinking about it now, like Public Enemy is a good film, but the whole fucking ending is a bit shit. Lazy writing.
I wouldn't mind it if he. I mean, I still got to read the Heat 2 book that he did. That's like both a prequel and a sequel.
Yeah, they're trying to make a movie out of that now. I don't have any for it now, but sure we may.
Well, especially when you give it away how it begins and ends.
Yeah, it's like see, this is the thing issue I have with prequels. When you do it about main characters, if you already know a main character dies, what's the point of the prequel? Because you're going in still knowing that he's gonna die. Like, so all this is kind of pointless. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yes,
sir. Talk about is it Adam Driver playing fucking Al Pacino?
Yeah, they're all like training or something, and yeah, I'm like, however, I would rather it just be a separate Vice Squad. Like, there's a big enough world for you to develop. Hey, whatever. I'll keep my fingers crossed.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small-town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast wrecks and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a jacked up